guys, and welcome to For a Love of Rescue, powered by none other than Woodrock Animal Rescue. And I get proud every time I say it because it's such an honor to be part of this incredible organization. So Stella, how are you doing?
Hi Jax, yes, I'm Stella Meldau. I'm the co-founder of Woodrock Animal Rescue, and what makes me excited is the amount of years that I'm in rescue, which is well over 40 years. But the point of why I'm saying that is that, boy, you are never stop learning. One never stops to hear new things and explore new avenues. So we never stop learning, even after 40 years.
Absolutely. Actually, in fact, my late grandmother always used to say, only a fool doesn't listen and learn, and that's so true. You know, Woodrock Animal Rescue is an organization that has been going for over 40 years. It's amazing, and it's got so many different pillars in it, and it does so much. But I think let's go back to the beginning. I feel like Michael Jackson, you know, in his song, let's go back to the beginning. Stella, do you want to just tell our audience, first of all, Woodrock, where did the name come from?
So many years ago, when I was in corporate, I had to do law, and part of my job was to do company registrations and close corporations and shelf companies and all the rest of it. And one of the things we did was we had to register areas like Woodmead and Carver Rock, where you do ratepayers association. And with the area I lived in was Woodmead, and I did the Ratepayers Association for Woodmead next to Carver Rock. Hence the name, when it came to register, was Woodrock. And it was just easy then to call the rescue centre Woodrock because it was so minuscule, tiny at the time. And so how it started was we had one house, and the next door house became available, and so we bought that house, and that formally became Woodrock. And at that house, the SPCA knew us very well because we had a gate interleading the two houses. So when Steve came to do a home check and say, listen, I believe that you've got a lot of dogs here, I'd invite him in. And of course, before I'd invite him into the house, I'd usher all the dogs into the next door house through the gate. So it was a wonderful synergy. And if he went to the next door house, we'd say, look, we've only got a couple of dogs, and two of them are my mom's anyway. We would usher them into the next door house. So it was quite fun. I remember one time we couldn't get the dog over. It was a huge, big, fat pit bull called Khan, and the gate hadn't yet been built. And we had to push this huge pit bull over the wall. So there was a little bit of fun. So that was the story of how Woodrock started. And in those days, all we had was, there was no social media. There was no way to find your dog if it had gone lost. The microchips were unheard of, and if they were being done, people didn't know about where to register them, or it was IdentiPet, I think, in the early days, and nobody knew how to actually go out and source where the dog belongs. So there was a lovely lady, Sheila Gibson, in Norwood, and she had a little black book, and everybody would say, listen, I'm missing my Borbol, I've lost a toy palm, whatever, and she'd go through this black book and she would unite the dog to the owner.
Absolutely incredible. I love that, the fun of, you know, quickly swapping the dogs from one place to another, and I'm sure the dogs also found it quite entertaining. When you actually started that, and you started your little rescue centre and registered there and then in Woodmead with, you know, in the houses, did you ever in your wildest dreams believe or think that it could ever become
Never.
what it is today?
But as a youngster, Nicholas and I, when we were when we first got married, 20 and 23, I think we were, and his biggest dream was to have a donkey foundation. He felt, coming from the Eastern Cape, that the donkeys had a raw deal. So his dream was always a donkey foundation, which, as we got the farm, that was the very first exploration that he did. So let's go about how all the years we ticked along, and our children grew up, and they went to private schools, and we had this going on that we would rehome dogs. And we weren't charging for the rehoming, but we were doing home inspections.
So it's always been a pivotal part of Woodrock to make sure that that home is going to the right space and it's a safe space for that animal.
And you know, in those days, nobody was checking up on you, so you had to do this mindfully. And I remember once rehoming a dog in Greenside to an old lady, and I think she might have been a bit of a drinker. And I left this dog there, and Nicholas and I got into the car. We had driven all the way out there, and we got into the car, and we looked at each other and we burst out laughing because we knew this dog was not the right dog for her, and she insisted she wanted this particular bull terrier mix. And we laughed so hard when we got back. We drove around the corner, went back to the house, and we said, no, actually, this is not the right dog for you. And we went inside to claim our dog, and she was standing on the dining room table. Well, needless to say, that was definitely not the right home for that dog. Made many mistakes along the way, learned a lot about rescue, and as they say, strength in numbers. And we then grew, and we developed, and we got people on board who knew what they were doing, like Fiona was our first manager. So a lot happened.
She must be very excited to see you at the front door when that dog was standing on her dining room table.
I think she was completely out of her depths, because she could not even hold the lead, never mind get the lead on the dog. She was really frail, and it was funny. But that was just one of a million stories where we drove around the block and went right back. Or said to the person, well, where's the dog bowls? What water are you going, where are you going to put the dog? Or, have you prepared for us? So there's many stories that a rescuer can tell you, many great stories and many sad stories. But talking the early days, it was us and us alone, and it felt very lonely.
If you go back into, I'm going to call it the olden days, not really the olden days, but when I was a child, it was very, very different. Even when you were a child, there was no such thing as keeping your dogs locked up, keeping them in the house, etc.
I know where you're
They'd
going.
all run in the park, and they'd all do their own thing. So it was a very different setup, and life and circumstances have changed over the years, and hence the home checks have obviously also changed through the years as well. So in those days, it was a different kind of thing.
I remember Jackie's parents had a dog, Peppy, a large breed dog, and how Peppy would exercise, the gate would be opened, you'd give Peppy a pat on the backside and say, off you go, and a basset who flew seizures.
Shame.
And Peppy would arrive back home when the lights went off, just like a child used to in those days. And there were days he didn't come back home. And I mean, you think to yourself, today, if that happened today, I mean, the roads are so much busier, the theft of dogs, the poisoning of dogs, the fear of losing a dog today is very different. So you talk about the olden days, it did happen.
And the dogs would go and they'd play together, and they'd hang out at the park just like the kids. So it was a very different thing. And I think almost those children at the park, wherever the dogs would run to, would feel like they're also part of the dog, the dog's life.
You know the dogs. I knew a dog, Jason, who would be one of them from the corner, and also would be walking in the streets. And actually one day, when I think about it now, I've never been bitten by a dog, but my leg was nipped, and I still have a mark on my leg from Jason. But he was a really, imagine calling a dog Jason, but it was one of the street dogs that lived on the corner, and he would just walk the streets, and it was a very different era. But back to Woodrock Animal Rescue. So
I'm just going to stop you there,
yes,
because I'm having a little laugh to myself. In today's time, the dogs come into rescue, and it is Jackson, your favorite name, or it's Eddie, or it's Thomas, or it's Jane. They don't have the dogs like we also had in the old days. So you said Jason in those days. It's like an unheard of name, because you had like a Peppy, or you had a Cola, or you had a like kind of Brownie, or had Cuddly, those kind of named dogs. So even dogs' names through the years have changed as well.
I did have a Roger.
Did you have a Roger?
I did have a Roger.
So formal, Stella. What can I
know.
say? So tell me then. So Woodrock started in the two houses in Woodmead, and I don't think you only had dogs. You never had cats. You only had dogs. And
I did have cats.
Did you have cats?
And we were next to the golf course in Woodmead, the Woodmead golf course, and our cats would always go missing, and I was always convinced that they were being eaten. So that was the end of that. We just never got any more cats.
But you did get a couple of pigs.
Yes, so that was the reason, one of the main reasons why bless him, Dr. Barrow next door. So we had 2 pigs. It was at the season of the movie Babe, and my 7-year-old brought a pig home. And of course the pig grew into a very, very large pig and was very smelly, I suppose, I don't know, but did bring flies. And the noise of the dogs was really unpleasant. And Dr. Barrow was so patient with us, until one Christmas he came knocking on our door, and he said, "You are ruining our lives. We cannot have visitors over because your dogs are so noisy and rowdy." And that was the tick box where we said, okay, now we have got to get formal, get real, and get a farm.
Look, with all due respect, I think you were breaking a couple of rules there.
30 dogs.
So many animals in a residential area. So I do get it, but it actually forced you to create what you've got today, which is done. It's remarkable, and all the animals that you have rescued, and you've saved, and you've sterilized, and you've rehomed, and all the education that you've done through the outreaches, and I can go on, and it's just so phenomenal, all the good that you've done and all the impact that you've had through the years. It would never actually have happened had you have gotten to that stage.
Well, there was never it was almost a morphed situation. We morphed into rescue, because then we would meet up with fellow rescuers like Marlene de Beer from Friends of Rescued Animals, a dear friend of mine, and we would watch her also packing her dogs into her car and driving them off because the authorities were on their way. It was a very scary time.
So Stella, now you decide that you needed to, grow, and you were growing, and you needed, to find a place, a sanctuary of sorts. What made you come out to this area?
So I think we were the very first rescue centre in this area. Subsequent to us coming here, there's 5 other rescue centres who have arrived. But we realised that if you don't do something properly, don't do it at all. So we needed certain tick boxes. We needed the neighbours' approval. We needed the roads board to say, okay, it's fine. We needed the soundboard. We actually had the people sitting on our property for a whole weekend, and at the time we had 80 dogs, and they said to us, this is incredible. At night time it feels like there's not a dog on the property. But most importantly, we had to have structures where our dogs would be living as if they were in a home, because we were not negotiable about that. Dogs had got to sleep inside on a proper bed, and that was a huge task in itself, because I had proper train beds made for each little unit. I hate calling them cages because they're not cages. So we went to a lot of...
I call them bedrooms because, I kid you not, they're bedrooms. They've got their beds, they've got their blankets, their fresh blankets. They've got lighting, they've got heaters, and a fanning system. They've got obviously food, they've got everything there, and they've got space.
And in some of the kennels we even put a little mat down if the dog is a heavy dog and slips on the floor. And they've also got potty areas, so you open up the door, and it's not an enormous area, it's just a potty area because all our dogs walk every day, but that's a tale for another day. But back to why we did this. So it was also, we had to get the health and safety and the fire board in. So there was all these tick boxes. I stood in court many a time telling them why we should do this and how we should do that. And the paperwork, we've got dossiers of paperwork. So it became, that is why I've often said, Jax, to open a rescue centre, you can't do it the way we did it in the old days, open it in your back garden. It's not going to work. You're going to do something, do it properly. And times have changed. You've got to make certain that as you enter rescue, make certain you have a mission statement, you've got a foundation, you've got a board of executives, and that you are judged by everybody, and every decision is a decision that's made with everybody. People always come here and they say, gee, this is like a village. You've got a clinic, you've got a bunny area, you've got 3 catteries, 1 cattery and a feral cat community. You've got. It didn't just happen at the flick of an eyelid. It wasn't a magic wand. It just happened.
And I think you saying that as well is putting a couple of things into perspective for me as well, because what had happened, I think, through that period is that you were so focused on the animals and making sure that there were the right facilities for the animals, and that you could do your sterilizations, and that your cats were sorted to, that you actually, you forgot about the wall, you forgot about your safety, actually.
And that is where we have not ticked a box. We have got no perimeter wall. We are coming to another Christmas. Gunshots are a thing of today. It's a nightly occurrence. We have a full-time security guard at night, and he also needs a toilet. So all those wasted costs which we could be putting into the animals, we don't feel safe on the property. But yet again, Jackie, that is another program for another day. It's coming up, and it's something that we have to address very carefully. But back to the different units, we're sitting under this gorgeous lapa, and this was also like, should we, shouldn't we, have we got the money, let's do it, because we've got nowhere to consult with the clients. We don't have office facilities that are equal to a corporate's office. Everything is rustic, beautiful, and we're all about, if I might say, pretty. Everything has to be to standards of eye candy and function.
Absolutely. And I want to just close off the wall situation, because you've always put the animals first and paramount in every world, that the wall actually now has become essential for the animal safety and for your safety. So yes, we will discuss that another day, but it is something for our audience out there. You know, when you come through to Woodrock and you see these, as you've just said, pretty, we really like a standard. You know, you judge a book by cover, sadly, and you know, your first impression lasts longest. And those kind of sayings, although they're just sayings, they actually mean something. And people come here and they're super impressed with the facilities and with that it's spotlessly clean, with the way that the animals are looked after, and so on and so forth, with the education that they're learning through it. But they're not realizing how every little bit
the feeding scheme. Oh, there's just so much to talk about, which is, as I say, for another day. But you know what my most exciting thing is, and I'm not one to just invite a person off the street, come on in. But when somebody comes and says, you know, in a sweet way, oh, I see this beautiful center from outside and I pass it every day, do you mind? And if I've got time, I get quite excited because nothing is staged. And we say, come on in. And truthfully, the joy of them seeing, there is, okay, before 11 o'clock there will be. There's no poop in the areas. The dogs are all happy. They're all on you'll always find a dog walking in the veld. We've got a 2.5 kilometer walk, which we've never really explored the walk as to invite people in with their dogs, which once the wall is done, we can then consider yet another project. But for the moment, the wall is something that we have to consider. But you know, if you look at the areas on the farm, and I remember somebody saying to me, and I've used this term many times since he said it to me, my son-in-law came here after months of not being here, and he said, wow. He said, Stella, this is actually a village. So we've got quarantine area, we've got parva area, we've got parva recovery area. Jack said, I'm leaving anything out. We've got the puppy area, we've got intake area, we've got the dogs that have been taken from for outreach that are in recovery, the dogs that are coming for outreach that need body checks before they go to steri drives. So we've got the walk, as we've said, we've got front of house, we've got people who like have to prepare a thrift shop, the thrift that comes in, all of that, our
cattery. We've got the cattery, which is amazing. We've got a physio
the bunny
room.
park, the pigs, yes, the pig area, which is such a joyous area. You know, if you talk about Noddy Land, going into the little pig area, and I have to tell you, the pigs and all the animals are sterilized. I might tell you that on our farm, no animal is left unsterilized until they go home. Every animal is sterilized because we believe every animal deserves a home. So it's not because they are sterilized or unsterilized because they haven't got a home yet. This is their home when they get here.
Absolutely, and I think that in what you've just said, it just adds to the fact that Woodrock is not just pro-life. They are fiercely pro-life, pro-quality of life, which is quite phenomenal. What I'd like to really end off here and just, you know, tell our audience, you know, Stella and Nicholas are the founders of Woodrock Animal Rescue, and they've done the most remarkable job. And I think people sit on the outside and they kind of say, well, how? You know, and I think you've done it one step at a time, which has been amazing. And it's also thanks to our supporters out there and our warriors out there.
Oh gosh, no, we have to. Our warriors are, I mean, we've got a warrior who doesn't stop. She is relentless. We've got a home checking team. We forget about all of these amazing humans that are involved and who say, how did this dog go off? Oh yay, Piper got a home, and everybody, even at pop-up, the learners, were also excited.
And invested in Woodrock as a whole. But I think what
we
I'd
could
like,
never
yes,
have done it, Jax. Never, without our amazing cheerleaders.
Absolutely, and for that we will forever be grateful to you. And as Stella actually often says, Woodrock Animal Rescue is not ours, it's not hers, it's everybody's, and that's the most beautiful part. But speaking as an independent, I think that it's very important for our audience out there and whoever is watching this video today, just to make sure that when you are wanting to adopt or get involved in any way with the rescue center, make sure that they are authentic. Make sure that their belief system is the same as yours. Make sure that they are constant, and make sure that they've got sustainability. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of fly-by-night organizations that just pop up.
They care, but they don't see the bigger picture.
They do care, and they're obviously doing it for a reason. They don't see the bigger picture, and
failure rate is huge.
yeah, and I just think that they need to understand. They don't understand all the layers that go into taking in an animal, making sure that they are healthy and sterilized and vaccinated and dewormed, and make sure that you've assessed their personality, make sure are they sociable with other dogs, make sure your adoption process actually works properly, and you've actually done a thorough home check and seen, you know, the home check isn't just about checking out the home, it's about checking the other animals in that environment. Are they sterilized? Are they sociable? Do they sleep inside? All those things. And then the step further part of the home check is to make sure, is there any allied staff that actually work on the property? Do they have domestic help? Is the domestic going to be at home with the animal? Is the domestic petrified of animals, and can you educate them? So those are small things added on.
But that's another huge big clip that we're going to talk about, is the actual going home into the real home.
Absolutely. But so yet again, guys, if you're wanting to adopt, or you wanting to invest your
Foster
time or foster or be
donate.
a part, donate, or just be a part, have your name associated with an organization, come and chat to us. And if it isn't us and you're wanting to do it with anyone else, please make sure that it is real, it's authentic, and
that there are rules and there are pillars, and that there is a constitution.
Absolutely. I think this has been fun for me. I've even learnt a little bit about Woodrock Animal Rescue.
That you didn't know.
Absolutely.
I bet you about Sheila Gibson.
Absolutely. There we go. So guys, it's been absolutely awesome. I hope that you are enjoying what we're talking about. If you have something that we'd like to chat, you'd like to hear us talk about, please comment below. We'd love to hear from our
I'm
audience.
quite sure, you know, the keyboard warriors, you all have a million questions, because we see it every day. So bat for our team and support us rather than criticize.
Yeah, you know, it's not easy, it's hard, and I think if those keyboard warriors' feet were in our shoes, I think they'd act very, very differently. And we're only human and we do make mistakes, but we just try our very best for all the animals out there. So from me, Martheze,
and me, Stella Meldau, guys, it's been awesome.
signing out from For a Love of Rescue.